I was born in Oshawa, Ontario, in Canada. I spent most of my life there, and up till about the age of 21. The religious upbringing that I had was a Catholic. I went to a Catholic school until about grade 4, and then I went to a public school after that. But I was an altar boy for a time in my life, and I had a good experience in the Catholic Church growing up. We had some good priests that we always liked, and my grandmother was always at church and stuff. But I didn't spend much time in that after that point. After I went to the public school, I kind of drifted away from my faith and really didn't revisit it in high school or later in my life until the last couple of years. I think I was like most people with kind of secular liberal beliefs. I questioned a lot of things about the Bible. I questioned a lot of things that I thought were told to me as I was younger, and I didn't really visit them a lot. I didn't really look enough into those parts of my life. Then I had an experience in my life where I don't think things were going very well for myself, and I kind of secluded myself for a long time, and I spent a lot of time looking at the way the world kind of worked and the things that were happening in the world, and trying to justify it and try to figure out why these things were taking place in the world and what was behind it all. And I guess whenever I got deeper into it, I just found that I ended up on the same kind of answers, but it was missing something. So I remember feeling that what I was seeing was a kind of evil that existed in the world. And at that moment, I remember having this feeling where I had to find God, because if the evil that I'd seen was true, then God must be true too. So I really went out to search for Him, and then a process of having all those questions about God in the Christian Bible and really being discerning about it all kind of fell away, and I realized that a lot of things that I was putting faith into wasn't true, and there was an amount that I was missing, and I needed to put God in the equation, which immediately started to make a whole lot more sense of what was actually happening in the world and in my own life and everything around me. So I think that was kind of the beginning of it, and I keep growing into it and keep trying to spend as much time as I can looking into what He wants me to do and for His glory, and what I need to do in my life to achieve it. So I went back to the Catholic Church originally, that's locally in my town, and I just felt a little disconnected from it, and I just felt like it wasn't, I wasn't immediately kind of drawn into it. And so I started looking at taking another church, but being raised Catholic, you have a kind of preposition on the way you believe church should be. And it was a lot of anxiety about going to another church and kind of seeing what they're going to be doing here. And if it's not something I'm used to or out of my comfort zone, how would I respond? And, fortunately, the church that I have is very accepting, and it's very kind of non-denominational. And when I first sat down, a lot of people came up to me right off the bat and were introducing themselves to me and stuff. And it was a little overwhelming for me to kind of come into that. But I really appreciate it looking back at it now, because it was an anxious moment in my life to kind of walk into a new church, but then to feel accepted and to listen to the messages that were saying that I felt were true, and I felt that weren't kind of having an ulterior motive in any kind of way. There wasn't, and that's an odd thing to say, but there wasn't, I just felt like they were sharing the story of God, and I felt like they were sharing the story of truth, which I needed to hear and I needed to see. So I keep attending, and I always look for more opportunities for it. And I'm fortunate in the other parts of my life where I kind of run my own business now, and I listen to a lot of sermons, a lot of different pastors, a lot of different Christian worldview. And, I gave up on a lot of the mainstream things because, like myself before, they weren't including the story of God into the equation. And it just doesn't make sense, and it kind of goes on forever when you don't include God in that equation. So there's never there's more of a choice than just one or two. There's a third choice in that, and that's the existence of God and his role that he's playing in all this. So when people get into that left, right, or wrong or right, or that kind of argument, it just goes on too long without taking God into consideration. And when you take God in consideration in that, it makes a huge difference on your worldview. And I think that's one of the biggest things I'm thankful for, because I struggled a lot of times with looking at the way the world was working and seeing the way things were progressing. And I always consider myself a pretty forward thinker, someone that would think all the way down the track to see what would happen. And if you don't include God in that, it's a very kind of upsetting end. It's a very kind of dark end to that. I just didn't see how humanity was going to be able to do it on their own without God in their lives. I'm grateful that I was able to come back to him. And if I can say kind of a quick analogy of it, I remember feeling like I spent kind of a lot of time walking around a circle with my back facing outwards, looking at the world. And in the middle of that God was there the whole time. And I finally kind of turned to him and turned my back on the way I was seeing the world. And he was there.